Welcome to our deep dive. Today we're going to really get into the JFK assassination.
Oh, yeah.
Specifically Lee Harvey Oswald and some of the alternative theories around this event.
Okay.
You guys have sent in some really fascinating excerpts from the Third Decade Journal.
Right.
And we're here to break those down.
Absolutely. The JFK assassination, just one of those things, keeps sparking debate and new theories, even today. And these excerpts, they really touch on some of the most contested parts of it, like Oswald's alleged connections to Cuba, the Soviet Union, and inconsistencies in the official story.
Yeah. Well, let's get right into it.
Okay.
We can't talk about JFK without talking about I'm a patsy.
Right.
It's become such a pop culture phrase.
It has.
But in this context,
a
patsy means someone's being framed, basically the scapegoat for something much bigger.
Exactly.
And more sinister.
And that's where these excerpts, they offer a fascinating twist. They point out that Oswald never actually said those exact words.
Oh, really?
In any official recording. The phrase seems to have emerged during the media frenzy.
Oh, wow.
Makes you wonder how much of what we think we know about history is really shaped by narratives, not hard evidence.
Right. It's like a game of telephone.
Yeah.
Where the message gets distorted with every retelling.
Exactly.
And speaking of details that don't quite add up, there's this whole thing about a black sweater.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds mundane, I know.
Right.
But the excerpts highlight discrepancies in witness accounts and photos about whether Oswald was even wearing this sweater after the arrest.
That's a great point, and it shows how these tiny inconsistencies can really cast a long shadow of doubt.
Right.
Imagine you're being accused of something, and your clothes become a point of contention.
Yeah.
Forensic science often hinges on these tiny details, analyzing fibers, comparing them to crime scene evidence. A sweater can become a crucial piece of the puzzle.
So even a simple article of clothing can become a thread in a much larger tapestry of evidence.
Exactly.
And these excerpts, they also go into Oswald's finances, this $187 check that appeared in his account.
Oh, yeah.
Right before the assassination, raises some eyebrows.
Right.
So why is it so important to follow the money trail in cases like this?
Well, financial investigations, they can reveal a lot.
Like what?
Hidden motives connections we might not otherwise see.
Okay.
Investigators use these really sophisticated techniques to track the money flow. Look for red flags like money laundering shell corporations.
Right.
Anything that suggests a larger plot at play.
So someone might have been using Oswald's financial vulnerability to their advantage.
It's a possibility.
That's unsettling.
Yeah.
Now, the excerpts introduce another character.
Okay.
David Ferry, a figure with a really colorful past.
Right.
And some researchers think he might be linked to Oswald.
Yeah.
So fill us in. Who was Ferry, and why is this connection so important?
Well, David Ferry was a former pilot with strong anti-Castro sentiments, even alleged ties to organized crime.
Wow.
Some researchers believed he might have been involved in a plot against Kennedy.
Oh, wow.
Maybe as a recruiter or even a pilot.
Wait a minute. The excerpts mention Ferry dabbled in hypnosis and mind control.
Yeah?
Are we stepping into like a spy thriller here?
Well, the evidence connecting Oswald and Ferry is largely circumstantial.
Right.
Witness testimonies, they can be unreliable.
Right.
Especially in a situation with so much pressure. But the fact that this link keeps coming up shows investigators haven't ruled it out completely.
So it's another piece of the puzzle, but does it actually fit?
Right.
Speaking of potentially explosive information, the excerpts briefly mention E. Howard Hunt, the former CIA officer, and this alleged deathbed confession.
Right.
Claiming that the agency was involved.
Yeah.
What goes through your mind when you hear a deathbed confession? Does it automatically hold more weight?
Well, deathbed confessions are tricky.
Okay.
People often think of them as a final act of truth-telling, but we have to be cautious. Someone's mental state medication, even the people around them.
Right.
All of those factors can affect how reliable a statement like that really is.
That's a good point. It's natural to want to believe someone in their final moments.
Of course.
But we can't let that cloud our judgment.
Exactly. We have to weigh how significant a confession might be against the possibility that it might not present the whole picture or even be totally accurate.
Okay, so we have a former CIA officer alleging agency involvement. This just keeps getting deeper.
It does.
And then there's Fidel Castro.
Right.
The excerpts mention Castro might have had his own reasons for wanting Kennedy gone.
Yeah, the Kennedy administration, they had authorized multiple attempts to overthrow Castro.
Really?
Even assassination plots.
Wow.
So that creates a clear motive for retaliation.
Right.
Some speculate Castro might have orchestrated the assassination as like a preemptive strike or revenge for those attempts on his life.
So we're talking about a really tense, volatile international situation.
Sure.
But wouldn't proving Castro's involvement be almost impossible?
Investigations that involve foreign governments are inherently complex.
Yeah.
Especially when you're dealing with something as sensitive as the JFK assassination.
Right.
Access to information is limited. International cooperation can be a challenge, and there's always a high risk of misinformation.
So separating fact from fiction in this case sounds like a monumental task.
It is, and the excerpts you've shared, they highlight some of the inconsistencies and unanswered questions that have fueled these alternative theories.
So one of the biggest points of contention is the Warren Commission report.
Yeah, the official investigation into the assassination.
Right. Okay, for those who aren't as familiar with the details, can you walk us through some of the main points of the Warren report?
Sure.
And why some people find it so controversial?
The Warren report concluded that Lee Harvey Oswald acted alone in assassinating President Kennedy. They laid out a scenario where Oswald fired 3 shots from the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository. Right.
One missed, one hit Kennedy and Governor Connally, and the final shot was the fatal head wound.
But the excerpts we've been looking at point out some serious problems with that narrative, right?
They do. The articles raise questions about Oswald's clothing, the timing of his arrival at the depository, the lack of clarity about his movements after the shooting.
Okay.
They also mention the magic bullet theory, which tries to explain how one bullet could have caused all the wounds to both Kennedy and Governor Connally.
Right.
And many researchers find that theory highly improbable.
Yeah, it's like trying to explain impossible ricochets in a pool game.
Exactly.
It definitely makes you question the official narrative. So far, we've got a potential patsy.
Yeah.
A mysterious sweater, questionable finances,
Right.
a former CIA officer's deathbed confession, and a possible link to Castro. It's like a real-life spy thriller.
And we're only scratching the surface.
I know.
These excerpts are just a glimpse into the massive amount of information and speculation surrounding this case. Right. We may never have definitive answers.
True.
But examining the evidence and considering different perspectives is what makes this so fascinating.
Absolutely. And speaking of intriguing details, there's that $187 check again.
Right.
The origin of those funds has never been fully determined. Some believe it could be a payment from a foreign government.
Okay.
While others speculate it might be connected to organized crime, maybe even a domestic intelligence agency.
That's a financial breadcrumb trail that could lead us down a very dark path.
It could.
Who sent Oswald that money and why? Was it a payment for his alleged role, or is there something simpler?
That's the million-dollar question.
Right.
Without knowing the source, it's hard to assess its significance.
Yeah.
But the timing right before the assassination definitely raises suspicion. It makes you wonder about Oswald's motives and connections.
It's a missing puzzle piece that could change the entire picture if we could only find it.
Exactly.
What other details stood out to you in these excerpts?
Well, there's the matter of Oswald's trip to Mexico City a few weeks before the assassination.
Oh, wait.
The articles mentioned he was supposedly spotted at both the Cuban and Soviet embassies.
Wow.
Allegedly trying to obtain visas.
That's huge.
Yeah.
What was he doing there? Was he acting alone, or was he in contact with foreign powers?
The details surrounding that trip are still murky.
Okay.
Some witnesses claim to have seen him at the embassies while others disputed those accounts.
Right.
The purpose of his visit, if it even happened, is still debated. Some suggest he was seeking support to defect maybe to Cuba or the Soviet Union.
Okay.
Others believe he might have been involved in something far more sinister.
So we're back to the question. Lone wolf pawn or something else entirely?
Right.
These excerpts seem to create more questions than answers.
That often happens with historical investigations,
Right.
especially those that deal with events as momentous and controversial as this one.
Yeah.
The deeper you dig, the more you realize how much is still unknown.
And how much we may never know for sure.
That's true.
But I guess that's part of the allure, isn't it?
It is.
The search for the truth. The desire to understand the past, even if it means questioning everything we thought we knew.
Absolutely. The JFK assassination serves as a stark reminder that history isn't always neat and straightforward.
Right.
It's a tapestry woven with conflicting accounts, unanswered questions, and this constant drive to make sense of it all.
It's about more than just solving a puzzle. It's about understanding a defining moment in American history.
Exactly.
What other pieces of the puzzle did these excerpts bring to light?
Well, there's the enigmatic figure of George de Mohrenschildt.
Okay.
He was a Russian émigré and geologist who befriended Oswald and his wife Marina shortly after they arrived in Dallas.
His name pops up a lot in JFK assassination literature.
It does.
What's so intriguing about him?
De Mohrenschildt's relationship with Oswald has been intensely scrutinized.
Okay.
Some believe he was a CIA asset tasked with keeping tabs on Oswald, while others speculate he might have played a more active role, perhaps even in framing Oswald.
His background and connections definitely add another layer of intrigue to this already complex story.
Indeed. And his sudden death in 1977, just hours before he was supposed to testify.
Wow.
Before a congressional committee investigating the assassination.
Really?
Only fueled speculation about his involvement.
Wait, he died right before testifying.
Yeah.
It's almost as if the JFK assassination cast a long shadow affecting everyone connected to it.
Yeah.
In ways we might never fully grasp.
That's a powerful observation. The ripple effects of this event continue to this day.
Right.
Not just in the ongoing investigations and debates, but also in the way we view history, power, and the very idea of truth.
It reminds us that even carefully planned events can have unintended consequences.
Absolutely.
And that the past has a way of reaching into the present no matter how much time has passed.
Precisely. The JFK assassination stands as a warning about the vulnerability of power, the lasting impact of violence, and the relentless pursuit of justice, even when faced with seemingly insurmountable obstacles.
And that wraps up part 1 of our deep dive into the JFK assassination.
Right.
We've explored this maze of theories, uncovered some captivating details,
Yeah.
and really grappled with the layers of this historical mystery.
Absolutely.
But don't worry, there's more to come.
Join us for part 2 as we continue to unpack these excerpts from the third decade.
Right.
Diving deeper into the evidence, exploring even more alternative theories, and continuing to challenge the official narrative. Welcome back to our deep dive into the JFK assassination. As we dig deeper into these excerpts from the third decade, we're going to encounter even more perplexing details and clashing accounts.
Yeah, it's like trying to solve a puzzle where some pieces are missing, others might belong to a different puzzle, and some might even be cleverly disguised.
It's a real brain twister, that's for sure. One thing that really stands out in these articles is Oswald's defection to the Soviet Union in 1959. Talk about a bold move.
Yeah, especially during the Cold War.
Right. The excerpts delve into his motives and the circumstances surrounding his return to the United States. It's a really layered story.
So Oswald's defection was definitely a red flag for U.S. intelligence.
Oh, absolutely. Renouncing his American citizenship and trying to become a Soviet citizen at the height of the Cold War, it certainly raised eyebrows.
Yeah.
The excerpts suggest that his motivations were really complex.
Like what?
Maybe a mix of disillusionment with American society, an attraction to communist ideology, and just a desire to make a statement.
It's like he was trying to make this grand rebellious gesture, rejecting everything America stood for.
Right.
But then he becomes disillusioned with life in the Soviet Union and decides to come back to the U.S. with his Russian wife, Marina.
Yeah, and that's where things get really interesting.
Okay.
The articles highlight that the U.S. government actually facilitated Oswald's return.
What?
He received a loan from the State Department.
Oh, wow.
And surprisingly faced minimal scrutiny upon arriving despite his previous defection.
That's surprising.
This has led some to speculate that Oswald might have been working for American intelligence.
Wait, are we saying Lee Harvey Oswald, the alleged assassin of President Kennedy, might have been a double agent?
The parallels to espionage thrillers are definitely there.
Wow.
In the excerpts, they bring up another intriguing detail: Oswald's alleged involvement with the Fair Play for Cuba Committee.
Okay.
This organization advocated for normalizing relations between the U.S. and Cuba.
So essentially supporting a communist regime.
Yeah, essentially a regime that the U.S. government was actively trying to overthrow.
So we have a former defector who renounces his citizenship, goes to the Soviet Union, becomes disillusioned, returns to the U.S. with the government's help, and then starts supporting a communist regime the U.S. is trying to topple. That's quite a journey.
It is. It makes Oswald such a complex figure.
What do the articles say about his involvement with this committee?
Well, it's another piece of the puzzle. He publicly distributed pro-Castro literature.
Oh, wow.
Engaged in debates, even had a confrontation with anti-Castro activists. Some researchers believe his activism was genuine, while others suspect it might have been part of a deeper cover story, possibly orchestrated by intelligence agencies.
It's like trying to figure out which mask he was wearing at any given moment. Was he a true believer in communism, A disillusioned defector seeking redemption, or a pawn in a much larger, more sinister game?
It is. And I think that's the most unsettling aspect of this whole case.
It is.
Despite decades of investigations, books, documentaries, countless theories, Lee Harvey Oswald remains an enigma.
It's true. We may never fully grasp his motives, his beliefs, or his true role in the events that shook the world.
It's like he's become this blank canvas onto which people project their own interpretations of history, their own anxieties about power, and their own theories about who was really pulling the strings.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit and discuss another aspect mentioned in these excerpts, the media's role in shaping public perception of the assassination.
Oh yeah, the media frenzy surrounding the JFK assassination was unlike anything we'd seen before.
I can imagine.
The events unfolded live on television,
right,
and newspapers were scrambling to provide updates and analysis.
So even back then, the media had a powerful ability to shape narratives and influence public discourse.
Absolutely. And the excerpts highlight how certain images, phrases, and narratives quickly gained traction in the media and became ingrained in the collective memory of the assassination. Take, for example, the Zapruder film.
Right, they captured the assassination in such graphic detail.
Exactly. And it quickly became a key piece of evidence fueling endless debates and conspiracy theories.
Speaking of conspiracy theories, these excerpts certainly don't shy away from exploring some of the more alternative explanations for the assassination.
No, they don't.
We've touched on alleged CIA involvement, Castro's potential motives, and Oswald's mysterious connections.
Right.
What other alternative theories do these articles mention?
The articles mention a theory that the assassination was orchestrated by elements within the U.S. government itself.
Really?
Possibly disgruntled military officials or intelligence operatives who opposed Kennedy's policies. This theory often points to Kennedy's actions during the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Okay.
His efforts to de-escalate the Cold War, and his rumored intentions to withdraw from Vietnam as potential motives for a coup.
So this theory suggests that Kennedy was seen as a threat to the existing power structure.
Yeah.
And that his assassination was a way to remove him from office and preserve the status quo.
Exactly. It's a chilling thought, but one that has been explored by many researchers and authors. Of course, as with all alternative theories, it's crucial to approach it with a critical eye and carefully examine the evidence. The excerpts provide some intriguing points to consider.
Right.
But they don't necessarily offer conclusive proof for any specific theory.
It's all about connecting the dots. But sometimes those dots can be incredibly faint or lead us down misleading paths.
That's true.
Speaking of intriguing locations, let's talk about a place mentioned in these excerpts that's become almost legendary in JFK assassination lore: the grassy knoll. This seemingly ordinary patch of land in Dealey Plaza has become a focal point for those who believe there might have been a second shooter.
The grassy knoll has taken on an almost mythical significance in the JFK assassination narrative.
It has.
The excerpts point out that numerous witnesses claim to have heard gunshots coming from that direction.
Right.
And some even reported seeing a puff of smoke or a figure running away from the area.
So we have multiple witnesses placing a potential second shooter on the grassy knoll. Is there any physical evidence to back up these accounts?
The physical evidence concerning the grassy knoll is unfortunately inconclusive.
Okay.
No weapon was ever found there. And the acoustics of Dealey Plaza make it really difficult to pinpoint the exact origin of the gunshots. However, the fact that so many witnesses reported seeing or hearing something out of place in that location keeps the speculation alive.
So it's almost as if the grassy knoll has become a physical symbol of the lingering doubts and unanswered questions surrounding the assassination.
Yeah, a reminder that there might be more to the story than we know.
And those unresolved mysteries continue to draw us back to this case, trying to make sense of it all.
The JFK assassination is this historical enigma that continues to captivate and challenge us, constantly reminding us that the search for truth is often a long and winding road with many unexpected turns.
And sometimes that road leads us to unexpected places like a grassy knoll in Dallas, Texas, which has become a symbol of doubt, conspiracy, and the enduring power of the unknown.
And on that note, we come to the end of part 2 of our deep dive into the JFK assassination. We've delved into the complexities of Lee Harvey Oswald's life,
Right.
explored alternative theories, and examined the media's influence on public perception, but our journey isn't over yet. Join us in part 3 as we continue to unravel the enigma of the JFK assassination, exploring more intriguing details and conflicting accounts from these captivating excerpts.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into the JFK assassination. It's fascinating how even the most ordinary objects can become so important in a case like this.
Yeah, we've discussed the black sweater, the grassy knoll, everyday things become potential clues.
Right, and in these excerpts, another everyday object takes center stage, Oswald's rifle.
The Mannlicher Carcano, that Italian-made rifle found on the 6th floor of the Texas School Book Depository. It became a cornerstone of the case against Oswald. But these articles raise some interesting questions.
Like what?
About its connection to him.
Okay, like they mentioned that some people who worked with Oswald at the depository say they never saw him with a rifle.
Right, and then there's the little fingerprint issue.
The partial palm print on the rifle was crucial evidence linking Oswald to the weapon. But the excerpts point out something weird. There were no fingerprints found on the scope.
Exactly. You'd think if he assembled it and used it, his prints would be there.
Right.
This discrepancy has led some to believe that the evidence might have been planted.
Well, or tampered with.
Yeah.
It's like a classic detective novel where the missing fingerprints just change the whole case.
Right.
Speaking of things that don't quite add up, these articles also discuss the single bullet theory.
Yeah, the idea that one bullet caused all the wounds to both President Kennedy and Governor Connolly. The single bullet theory, sometimes called the magic bullet theory, it's one of the most controversial parts of the Warren Commission's findings.
And these excerpts really highlight how strange it is.
Yeah, that bullet found relatively intact on a stretcher at Parkland Hospital, it would have had to defy physics to create all those wounds.
It's like something out of a movie. Right, this bullet's bouncing around like it's got a mind of its own.
Exactly. The trajectory and the damage caused by this single bullet have been debated and analyzed forever.
Right.
Computer simulations experts weighing in. Some think it's possible, others say it's impossible.
It's just another layer of complexity that makes this whole thing so intriguing. Now, we can't talk about the aftermath of the assassination without mentioning Jack Ruby, the Dallas nightclub owner who shot Oswald just 2 days after Kennedy's death.
Jack Ruby, another figure just shrouded in mystery. His motives for shooting Oswald have never been fully figured out. He claimed to have acted impulsively driven by grief for the president. However, the excerpts point out that Ruby had ties to organized crime. And some researchers believe he might have been involved in a plot to silence Oswald.
To keep him quiet.
Yeah, before he could reveal anything damaging.
A potential mob connection.
Yeah.
This just keeps getting more and more complicated. It's like peeling back layers of an onion only to find more layers underneath.
And with each layer we peel back, we find more conflicting accounts, missing pieces, and questions that we may never have the answer to.
That's the nature of historical mysteries, isn't it? We try to reconstruct the past, put the pieces together into a story.
Right.
But sometimes the truth is just out of reach, hidden by time and all the speculation.
I think that's the enduring allure of the JFK assassination. It makes us question what we think we know.
Right.
Challenge the official story and acknowledge that history is not always a neat and tidy story. It's messy.
Right. It's a tapestry of ambition, betrayal, violence, and the constant pursuit of truth.
Absolutely.
So we've reached the end of our deep dive, and we have more questions than answers.
I need to.
But maybe that's okay. Maybe the journey itself, examining the evidence, considering different perspectives, and grappling with how complex this event is, has been valuable.
It reminds us that history isn't just a collection of facts in a textbook. It's alive, and we're all part of it.
Right. And sometimes the most important thing isn't finding all the answers, it's asking the right questions.
Exactly.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this. What questions about the JFK assassination are still in your mind? What keeps you coming back to this event? What makes you wonder, what if?
The JFK assassination is a puzzle with lots of missing pieces. But maybe in those missing pieces, we can learn more about ourselves, our history, and the world around us.
Keep questioning, keep exploring, and keep searching for the truth. Who knows, maybe you'll be the one to find that missing piece that finally completes the picture. Until then, keep thinking, and remember, history is a deep dive full of possibilities.